Hello, this is Photography Gamer, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Conan Exiles for the PS4. This review is based on version 1.52, which is current as of March 2020. Conan Exiles is a survival crafting building game developed by Funcom. The game is set in a fictional Hyborian age in the Conan the Barbarian universe, but you don't play as Conan. Instead, you have to create a character who's been convicted of various crimes and sentenced to death by crucifixion. But thankfully, good old Conan saves you from certain death, and after the opening cinematic you get to create a unique character, and then you're on your own. Your character can be either male or female, and you have a variety of facial options to choose from. You can choose your hairstyle, hair colour, skin tone and your body type. Another key choice is your religion. This dictates which god you worship, and it will allow you to build a specific altar to that god to make offerings to, with the endgame being to have the ability to summon this god to destroy your enemy's base. The game also offers a complete nudity option, so if you want to run around the map with your crown jewels hanging out, you can. The game can be played online in maps full of other human players, or you can play offline in solo mode or in a private online match with your friends. So what is the game like to play? Well, you start out in the desert with no clothes, weapons or tools. In the beginning, the game has an exile journey sort of subplot which acts as an overarching story, but it also acts as a tutorial. Initially, it's a bit of a struggle to survive. You need to eat, you need to drink, and you need to find clothing and weapons, but in the first few hours you will die quite a lot. But once you get past that initial phase, you'll have like the basic resources. You'll have a house to store your items in and place your bedroll, and the bedroll is very important because it's your respawn point. The game world is vast with different biomes from deserts, jungles and highlands. The one thing to note about the map is it doesn't feel very dangerous, not compared to something like Ark, because most of the things in the game can be outrun, or you can just climb up a sheer kind of cliff face and get out of danger that way. So it's pretty easy to get away from any dangerous situation. So if you've seen the trailer to this game, you might think it's action-packed, but that's not really what the game's like to play on a day-to-day basis. Progress in this game is very slow. You have to grind an awful lot to get any amount of resources, and that means collecting stones, chopping down trees, gathering plants, etc. In order to build anything, it's going to take you hours or even days to gather the resources required to build it. So it's not a game for the casual gamer, this is for the hardcore crowd who've got a lot of time on their hands. But if you have that time, the building element really is sensational, but more on that later. So the combat, well, on release the combat was really terrible, but as it currently stands it's definitely improved a lot. But saying that, it's nowhere near the standards of like a God of War game or For Honor. The combat generally feels a little bit soft, the sound effects aren't very good, the collision detection is a bit dubious, and it's a little bit hit and miss. But it's not as bad as it was on release, so at least the developers are progressing. You can block, dodge, use light or heavy attacks, and you can also use ranged weapons like bows, but the bows really aren't that effective and the control system for it just doesn't feel right. One good thing about Conan Exiles is that the game has a lot of NPCs walking around the map. There are enemy camps, enemy towns, and you can go there, get into fights, but there's also wild creatures who roam around in the sort of disparate landscapes between the towns, and there are bosses also in the caves and the dungeons. But the best part of Conan Exiles by a long distance is the building. Once you've gathered enough resources, you can craft various building blocks. You can build vast and incredible structures, and the system is very user friendly. The game indicates the outer part of the wall, so you don't put them in back to front. You can basically create and build anything you can imagine. And when you add in the various DLCs, you really do have a huge array of different architectural options. You have to learn schematics to craft building blocks or weapons or armour, but you can do this as you level up. As I said, there's a variety of DLC packs. These are just cosmetic based, and each of them gives you new weapons, armour, building blocks and decorative items to craft. I haven't tried them all, but I did purchase the Aquilonian set, which has a Greek style to it. So I used this set to create what you're looking at on the screen right now. I made this long bridge over a river, incorporating the river to make water features. I used statues, decorations, cushions, chairs. Then I made a temple-like structure at the other side with an armory as well. So if you've got enough time and resources, you really can build some absolutely beautiful things, and the DLCs, depending on what you're into, will be able to sort of please different gamers depending on your style. Some other interesting elements to the game are the ability to dye your clothing to customize your outfit. You can knock out enemy soldiers and turn them into thralls. Thralls are basically slaves who will do your bidding. You can tame animals and use some of them as mounts to help you get around the map. You can summon your god of choice once you reach a certain level of devotion to your faith. And the game has a purge which from time to time will attack your base, but honestly the purge doesn't really work the way it should, but maybe in time the developers will fix this. Overall the game is a bit of a grind fest, but the building is enjoyable and the combat has improved greatly. The map is varied and it looks decent, but there are still some huge issues and there are huge swathes of land that feel a little bit empty and pointless. Graphically the game is okay, but most of the textures and small details are a little bit washed out and soft. There is a considerable amount of slowdown if you build larger structures, and the pop-up of items in the environment is a constant annoyance. But on the plus side, the weapons, armour and building blocks all look nice enough, and the day-night cycle adds a certain amount of atmosphere. The music in the game is excellent. Each region has a different theme and they're all very well scored and are of a very high standard. And the main Conan theme is really rousing and it gets you in the mood to smash some heads. The sound effects, however, are a little bit poor. They don't carry much weight when you're in combat and it feels pretty low level in terms of production value. The voices of the NPCs aren't great, but at least the game has NPCs to spice up the map. The environmental ambience is pretty absent throughout and it's more in line with the combat sound effects in terms of the quality. Okay, so what's good and what's bad? What's good? The game is one of the best building games available today. The musical score is excellent throughout. The variety of weapons and armour available is very impressive. The map is large and there's lots to find and explore. And online it's an enjoyable challenge trying to fend off the other human players. What's bad? The combat, although improved since release, still isn't the best. The graphics should be much better with the power the PS4 has available. The game world doesn't feel very dangerous to explore. There's no local multiplayer. And the Conan brand seems like it was just tagged onto a building game, as building seems to be the premise of this game as opposed to the expected combat focus of a Conan universe game. Okay, so what's the verdict? Conan Exiles could have been an amazing game, but instead it's just a good game. If you enjoy building games, then this is about as good as it gets. But in the end, the core game around that isn't of the same level as the building. The game world is vast, but it lacks real character and atmosphere to make the journey as enjoyable as the building. Honestly, the game really should have been called Conan Builders. Also, the use of the Conan the Barbarian brand is a little bit misleading. Because when you think of Conan, you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger, large swords and epic combat. You don't think of some guy building a staircase or putting a rug on a wall. It feels like Funcom bought the rights to Conan to appeal to those franchise fans, but at its core, Conan Exiles is just a very good building game with mediocre combat that hasn't really had due care put into its implementation. So my score for Conan Exiles is 7.5 out of 10. It's a good game if you like building and grinding and a bit of online play, but the combat, it's a bit hit and miss. You can't really say it's a great combat game because it's got nice weapons, got nice armor, good building blocks, but the combat just doesn't feel right. But I did still enjoy it. Okay, that was the review. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. This is Photography Gamer signing off. Thank you.